In the deep darkness of space, there was a place few knew about. A hidden corner of the galaxy where the most powerful aliens gathered in secret. They came not for gold, not for weapons, but for something far more rare. They came for a taste of the most prized delicacy ever known, human nectar. No one really knew how it was made. Some said it was a liquid, some said it was a scent, and others believed it was a feeling you could only experience, not touch. But all agreed on one thing: only humans produced it, and it was worth more than 1,000 planets. On a faraway jungle planet, a human named Reed walked carefully through thick trees and giant vines. He was an explorer sent by Earth science, guild to collect samples of alien plants and life. He loved his job, but he also knew how dangerous the galaxy could be. He thought this planet was empty, untouched. But Reed was wrong. Hidden in the shadows, alien eyes watched his every move. Their skin was smooth like glass, their eyes large and glowing in the dark. They whispered in their strange tongue, excited. One of them hissed, "A human. After all these years, a pure human is here." Reed had no idea. He kept scanning leaves, recording data, and enjoying the peace. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. Suddenly, a sharp sting hit his neck. Reed slapped it, thinking it was an insect, but in seconds his body felt heavy. His legs wobbled, his vision blurred, and he collapsed to the ground. The last thing he saw was tall figures stepping out from the trees, their bodies glowing faintly. Then everything went dark. When Reed woke up, he was trapped inside a transparent cage. The air was cold, and strange lights blinked around him. Outside the cage stood several aliens, all different shapes and sizes. Some were fat and slimy, others tall and armored, but all had one thing in common: their eyes stared at Reed like he was a rare treasure. One alien stepped forward. She was tall, elegant, with smooth silver skin that shined like metal. Her eyes were dark red, and her voice was sharp. She introduced herself in broken English. "I am Zoreth. You human are now property of the galactic market. Your nectar will make me rich." "Nectar?" Reed asked, confused and scared. "What are you talking about? I'm not a plant." The aliens laughed, a sound that echoed and rattled the cage. Zoreth smiled cruelly. "You don't know? Oh, human, your kind produces the sweetest nectar in the universe. We harvest it, and we sell it to the elite. But not everyone can make a human release it. It takes skill." Reed's heart raced. What were they planning to do to him? He tried to stay calm, tried to think. "If you kill me, you'll get nothing," he said, hoping to buy time. "Kill you?" Zoreth chuckled. "Foolish human. No, we won't kill you. The nectar comes when a human feels certain emotions: fear, pleasure, pain, excitement. We will play with you until the nectar is ready." The aliens argued among themselves about who should get the first chance to harvest Reed. Zoreth slammed her staff on the ground. "I paid the highest price. The human is mine to harvest." Reed looked around desperately. He saw tools, strange devices, sharp and glowing. He knew escape was impossible for now. But he also knew something the aliens didn't: humans were not easy to break. Zoreth stepped closer to the cage. "You should start trembling, human. Soon you'll beg for mercy." But Reed stared back, his voice steady. "I'm not afraid of you." This made the aliens laugh again, but behind their amusement was confusion. Why wasn't the human scared? Why wasn't he trembling already? Zoreth frowned, realizing that maybe, just maybe, humans were more complicated than they had believed. Still, she was determined. She turned to her assistants, ordering them to prepare the chamber. She promised that by the end of the day, Reed would either produce the precious nectar or suffer endlessly trying. As Reed sat in the cold cage, he whispered to himself, "Whatever. This nectar is ... They won't get it from me easily." Somewhere deep inside, a spark of defiance grew in Reed's heart. He was not just a specimen. He was a human, and humans were full of surprises. But little did he know, Zorath had many tricks of her own, and the real game was just beginning. Reed sat in the transparent cage, his mind racing with questions. He was deep in alien space, surrounded by beings who wanted something from him called the Nectar. He didn't know what it was, but he knew one thing: it wouldn't be good for him. The cold air inside the cage pressed against his skin, and strange lights blinked across the room. Like quiet, watching eyes. Outside the cage, Zorath stood tall, her silver skin gleaming under the lights. She whispered to her assistants, each of them preparing strange devices. Some looked like sharp tools, others like machines designed to scan or poke. None of it looked pleasant. Zorath's red eyes never left Reed. She smiled with cold confidence, as if she had cracked an unsolvable puzzle. "This human thinks he's strong," she said, "but he will learn. They always break, and when they do, the nectar flows." Reed tried to listen carefully. The aliens spoke in their language, but every so often, Zorath slipped back into broken English, just loud enough for him to understand bits and pieces. They spoke of other humans, ones captured before, though none had lasted long. But each time, the aliens argued, something was missing in the nectar. Some buyers said the flavor wasn't rich enough, others said the experience was dull. That was why Zorath had paid a fortune for Reed. She wanted to discover the perfect method, the one that made the purest nectar. Suddenly, a door slid open with a hiss. An alien entered, taller than the others, wearing thick armor and carrying a large staff. His voice was deep and heavy. "Zorath," he said, "the buyers are here. They want to see the extraction." Zorath smiled wider. "Good, let them watch. They will see history." The alien buyers entered the room, each more bizarre than the last. One floated with a jelly-like body, another had sharp, shining feathers instead of skin, and another had multiple glowing eyes stacked on top of each other. All of them stared at Reed as if he was already served on a plate. Reed's stomach twisted. He wasn't just a prisoner. He was the main course. Zorath pressed a button, and the cage started moving, sliding along rails toward the center of the chamber. Above him, strange lights and metal arms hovered like predators waiting for the right moment. "Do you know why your nectar is so rare?" Zorath asked Reed, her voice like ice. Reed shook his head, though he wasn't sure if he wanted the answer. "Because humans feel deeper than any other species," Zorath said. "Fear, love, hope, pain. When these emotions mix inside you, it creates something beautiful. We can taste it. It's not in your blood, not in your sweat, it's in your essence." Reed stared at her. "So you're going to torture me?" Zorath laughed softly. "Torture? No, that gives only bitterness. No, we need balance. A dance between hope and despair, between pleasure and pain. Only then does the nectar emerge." The buyers murmured among themselves, eager to see if Zorath's method would work. Reed clenched his fists. "You'll be disappointed," he said. "I don't break that easy." Zorath tilted her head, curious. "We'll see, human. Everyone has a weakness. I just need to find yours." With a wave of her hand, the machines came alive. One arm shot out, wrapping a glowing ring around Reed's head. Instantly, memories started flashing in his mind, his childhood, his family, moments of happiness, moments of loss. The ring was reading his memories, searching for his deepest fears, his strongest desires. Reed groaned, struggling, but the more he resisted, the faster the machine dug through his mind. Zorath watched the readings closely. Her eyes lit up when the machine buzzed. "There," she whispered. "We found it." She tapped the screen, showing an image from Reed's mind, a woman, smiling. Someone Reed had once loved deeply, but lost long ago. Zorath smiled wickedly. "Ah, love. Such a powerful emotion. Perhaps we can make him believe she's still alive, or watch her die all over again." Reed's heart pounded. They were going to use his own memories against him. But then, he noticed something. One of the assistant aliens, a smaller figure with soft green skin and large curious eyes, watched him differently. She didn't have the same hunger in her gaze. Instead, she seemed thoughtful, almost sad. Their eyes met. For a second, the assistant alien hesitated, then quickly looked away when Zorath called her over. Reed held on to that moment. Someone in the room wasn't like the others. Someone might help, but time was running out. The machine was ready, the buyers were watching, and Zorath was eager to begin the extraction. As the lights dimmed and the air filled with a strange hum, Reed whispered to himself, "They think I'm their ingredient, but I'm going to turn this into their worst mistake." And with that thought, the real fight began, not of fists, but of minds, memories, and the unbreakable human spirit. The machine's hum grew louder, and the lights above Reed flashed in patterns, like some hypnotic pulse meant to control the mind. Metal arms hovered close, each tipped with devices Reed didn't understand, some sharp, some soft, others glowing with energy. But Reed didn't flinch. He stared ahead, pretending to be calm, even as his heart raced. Zorath stood by the control panel, her red eyes focused. She spoke to her assistants, giving precise instructions in their strange language. The alien buyers watched with greedy anticipation, waiting for the moment when the first trace of human nectar would appear. "Begin the memory stream," Zorath commanded, her voice cold and sharp. One of the devices on the metal arm activated, and a soft blue light beamed into Reed's forehead. In an instant, images flashed before his eyes, not real ones, but crafted illusions. He saw the face of the woman he had loved, smiling, calling his name. He saw himself on Earth, under blue skies, holding her hand, laughing. For a second, Reed almost believed it. It felt so real. The smells, the warmth, the softness of her voice, it was perfect. But deep inside, he knew it was a lie. Suddenly the image twisted. The woman screamed, shadows surrounding her. Reed watched helplessly as she was dragged into darkness, her voice fading. His heart clenched, but he bit his lip, refusing to show fear or sadness. Zorath watched the monitors, her frown deepening. "Strange," she muttered. "The nectar should have begun forming, but there is nothing yet." The buyers grumbled. One with feathery skin clicked its beak. "You promised results, Zorath. We paid dearly for this demonstration." Zorath waved her hand. "Patience. The human is resisting, but all minds crack eventually." She turned to the assistant alien, the small green one who had watched Reed with gentle eyes. "Increase the emotional pressure," Zorath ordered. The assistant hesitated but obeyed, adjusting the settings. The machine pulsed brighter, and Reed's mind was thrown into new illusions. He saw his family back on Earth, his childhood friends, all suffering, calling for help. He couldn't move, couldn't save them. Reed's breathing became heavy, but still he held on. He whispered to himself, "This isn't real. This isn't real." Then something curious happened. Amid the chaos in his mind, a soft voice whispered, not from the machine, but real, close to his ear. "Resist the images. They can't touch your core. It was the assistant alien. Somehow she had moved close, pretending to check the devices, but had secretly whispered to Reed. Reed's eyes flickered to her. She looked down quickly, pretending nothing happened, but her message was clear. Reed understood. They could play with his memories, twist them, but they couldn't reach his core, his real feelings, his truth. And his truth was simple. His love, his pain, his fears. They were real, but he controlled them, not these aliens. Zorath grew frustrated. "Why is there still no nectar?" She snapped out. The assistant alien spoke carefully. Perhaps. The method is wrong. Maybe humans don't respond to pain and loss the way we think." Zorath glared at her. "And what do you suggest? Singing them lullabies?" The assistant stayed silent, but Reed smiled faintly. He had an idea. He looked at Zorith and said calmly, "You think humans are weak because we feel pain. But you're wrong. Pain makes us stronger. We don't break from memories, we grow from them." Zorith sneered. Bold words from a trapped human. Reed nodded. "Maybe, but you'll never get your nectar this way. You can't force it out. It comes when we choose to give it. That's why it's rare. That's why you fail." The buyers stirred, curious now. One asked, "Then how does it come, human? What do you need to release it?" Reed shrugged. "Kindness, connection, trust. We open up when we feel safe, not hunted." Zorith laughed harshly. "Lies, weakness. No species is like that." But the assistant alien whispered softly, what if he's right? "We've tried fear, pain, pleasure, but not friendship." Zorith growled, "Enough, we don't befriend food." Reed smiled wider. "Then you'll never taste the true nectar. Because humans aren't ingredients. We're more than you can imagine." Zorith's anger burned hot. She ordered the machines to increase power, determined to break him, but nothing happened. The monitor showed no sign of nectar, only calm defiance in Reed's mind. The buyers began to doubt, some muttering that this was a waste. But in that room, the assistant alien's mind was changing. She saw something unique in Reed, something no machine could capture. She decided then that she couldn't let Zorith destroy him, and as the machine's word and Zorith cursed, Reed and the assistant alien shared one glance of silent understanding. The process had failed, but the real mystery of the human spirit was only beginning to unfold. Reed sat still in the cold chamber, his body tired but his mind sharper than ever. The machines had failed to break him. Zorith's devices could invade his memories. They could show him illusions of fear and pain, but they could not touch his will. He realized that the more they tried to force the nectar out of him, the less they understood humans at all. Zorith stood by the console, her red eyes burning with frustration. The alien buyers muttered among themselves, clearly losing interest. She couldn't afford to fail. Her reputation as the greatest extractor of human nectar was now crumbling in front of the richest clients in the galaxy. She slammed her hand on the console. "What is wrong with this human?" she shouted. "He should have cracked by now." One of her assistants timidly offered, "Perhaps he's defective." "No," Zorith hissed. "There are no defective humans. Only methods that are too soft." She turned to Reed and sneered, "You think you're clever. But I've seen minds stronger than yours fall apart eventually. I just need to find your breaking point." Reed smiled faintly. "That's your problem, Zorith. You think everything breaks if you press hard enough. But humans ... we don't just break. Sometimes we bend, sometimes we grow stronger." His words irritated her further. She stormed out, leaving the assistants to guard the room. That was when the small green-skinned assistant, the one with gentle eyes, approached the cage quietly. She looked around to ensure no one was watching closely, then whispered, "How do you resist?" The others ... They all screamed. They begged. "Why not you?" Reed looked at her, his voice calm. "Because you're trying to take something that can't be stolen. It has to be given, but you wouldn't understand that." She looked down, troubled. "I want to understand. My name is Velra. I've never seen a human up close. I don't want to hurt you, but they'll punish me if I disobey." Reed leaned forward slightly. "Then help me escape. You know they'll kill me if they can't get what they want." Velra's eyes shifted nervously. "Escape? Impossible. The ship is locked tight." Reed's mind worked quickly. "Not if you help me. You know the halls, the guards, the systems. And you're smarter than the rest of them, aren't you?" Velra hesitated. For the first time in her life, she felt torn between duty and curiosity. Reed wasn't just a subject. He was alive, defiant, and something about his human spirit intrigued her deeply. Before she could answer, Zorith returned, her face twisted in cold satisfaction. "I've decided. Human," she announced. "I'm not going to extract your nectar. Piece by piece, I will flood your mind. I will pour every terror, every nightmare into your head at once. You will drown in your own fears. And when you finally break, your nectar will overflow." Reed said nothing, but inside, he knew he couldn't survive another round of mental invasion. He had to act fast. Zorath ordered the machine to prepare for the next phase. The buyers gathered again, excited to see the human's final collapse. But then, without warning, the power flickered. The lights dimmed, the machines whirred and then stalled. Zorath looked around in confusion. "What is this?" she barked. Velra stood near a panel, her hand casually resting against a hidden switch. She looked innocent, but her heart raced. She had sabotaged the power just for a moment. Reed saw his chance. He grabbed one of the loose rods inside the cage, jammed it into the control lock, and with a sharp twist, the transparent walls cracked. The cage shattered open, and Reed rolled. Out, grabbing the sharp end of the rod, Zorath screamed, "Stop him! Kill him if you must!" The guards rushed forward, but Reed was quick. He struck one in the leg, tripped another, and grabbed a glowing baton from a stunned assistant. The baton crackled with energy, and Reed swung it with all his strength, knocking two aliens to the ground. Velra watched in awe. She had never seen anyone fight like that, not just with weapons, but with pure determination. Reed didn't waste time. He ran to the nearest console and smashed it with the baton, disabling the room's doors. Sparks flew, and alarms blared. Zorath lunged at Reed, her sharp claws aiming for his throat, but Reed ducked and jabbed the baton into her side. She howled in pain, collapsing to the floor. Breathing hard, Reed turned to Velra. "Come with me, or stay and die with them." Velra shook with fear but also wonder. She nodded. "I'll help you. Follow me." Together, they ran through the halls, alarms echoing everywhere. Aliens shouted and scrambled, but Reed stayed close to Velra, trusting her path. For the first time since his capture, Reed felt hope. His spirit hadn't just resisted, it had fought back. And now, with an unlikely ally by his side, he was determined to find freedom. But he knew Zorath wouldn't give up, and the real battle was still ahead. Velra moved swiftly through the narrow corridors of the alien ship, her green skin blending into the dim lights that lined the walls. Reed followed closely behind, gripping the stolen energy baton tightly in his hand. His heart pounded, not just from running, but from the knowledge that their escape was far from over. Behind them, alarms echoed like angry screams, and Zorath's furious voice echoed through the speakers. "Seal the exits. The human must not leave. Bring me his body if you must." Reed could almost hear the pounding of alien feet rushing to corner them, but Velra was clever. She knew the ship's structure better than anyone. She guided him through maintenance tunnels, hidden doors, and abandoned sectors. "Why are you helping me?" Reed finally asked, his voice low but steady. Velra glanced back. "Because I don't think you're just food. You single quotes Reed ... different. I want to know why humans are special. I want to understand why your spirit doesn't break." Reed chuckled under his breath. "Most of my people don't feel special. We just don't like being someone's dinner." They reached a chamber filled with glowing tanks, each containing strange liquids and floating creatures' failed experiments. Half-formed and lifeless, the air smelled of chemicals and despair. Reed stared at the horror. "Is this what you do to everything you catch?" Velra looked down, ashamed. "Zorath believes everything has a weakness. Everything can be broken, dissected, understood. But I think some things aren't meant to be controlled." Reed touched one of the tanks, watching the still form inside. "That's the thing about humans. We're not just bone and blood. We have something you can't measure. We call it the soul." Velra's eyes widened. Soul? Before Reed could explain further, the walls trembled. Zorith's voice thundered, "You cannot run forever, human. You may have escaped your cage, but you will not escape my ship." Velra cursed under her breath. "She's tracking us. She knows this ship too well." Reed looked around. "Is there a weakness in the ship? A control hub, a power core? Something that can distract them or shut them down?" Velra nodded slowly. "There's a power core, but it's heavily guarded, and it's dangerous. If it's damaged, the whole ship could explode or worse, drift powerless in space." Reed's eyes lit up. "That's our best shot. If we take the core offline, they'll be blind. We can escape in the chaos." Velra hesitated. "It's a risk, but it might work." She led him deeper into the ship. The halls grew hotter, the lights brighter, and the hum of energy vibrated through the walls. Finally, they reached the power core chamber, massive, glowing with blue and white energy, surrounded by thick tubes and armored guards. Reed peeked around the corner. "That's more guards than I can fight alone." Velra thought for a moment, then whispered, "There's a maintenance shaft above. It leads directly to the energy regulator. If you damage it, it'll trigger a shutdown sequence." Reed nodded. "Good. Can you distract them?" Velra smiled faintly. "I'll try. But don't die, human." She stepped out into the open, calling attention to herself. "Guards! The human is in the lower corridor. I tried to stop him." The guards snapped to alert, some rushing past her toward the false direction she gave. Others remained, but fewer now. Reed didn't waste time. He climbed up the maintenance shaft, moving quietly but fast. He found the regulator, a glowing, spinning device connected to the core. Reed took the stolen baton, adjusted its energy setting, and jammed it deep into the regulator's heart. Sparks flew. The machine groaned. Lights across the ship flickered. Alarms turned into harsh sirens. Below, the guards panicked, and Velra used the distraction to knock one unconscious and grab his weapon. The entire ship trembled. Zorith's voice echoed, full of rage. "What have you done? You've doomed us all." Reed climbed back down, breathless but alive. Velra met him with wide eyes. "You did it. The core is failing. But we have to get to the hangar now." Together, they sprinted, dodging confused and disoriented aliens. The ship's lights dimmed, power systems crashing one by one. As they neared the hangar, Zorith herself appeared, limping but furious, her eyes glowing bright red. "You think you can escape? Me, human?" she growled. "You're mine." Reed stood firm. "I'm not yours. And I'll never be. That's what you never understood. Humans don't belong to anyone." Zorith charged, claws ready to strike, but Velra fired the stolen alien weapon, hitting Zorith in the shoulder. She shrieked in pain, collapsing. Reed helped Velra into the nearest small escape pod. He activated the controls, and the pod launched just as the ship's systems began to implode. As they drifted away, Reed looked back at the crumbling alien ship. "We did it," Velra whispered. "For now," Reed said, his voice steady. "But this isn't over. They'll keep hunting us. But we'll be ready." And with that, the pod vanished into the stars, carrying the human and the alien who no longer wanted to be a predator, but something more. The escape pod shot through the blackness of space, the stars streaking past like white rivers of light. Inside, Reed and Velra sat breathless. The walls of the tiny pod hummed gently, a far cry from the chaos they had left behind. Behind them, Zorith's ship burned, small explosions rippling across its massive body. Sparks of blue and orange lit the darkness, a dying monster screaming into the void. Velra watched silently through the pod's small window. "I've never seen her fail before," she whispered. Reed smirked. "There's a first time for everything." But their relief was short-lived. A loud beep echoed inside the pod, and a red warning light flashed on the console. Velra's face turned pale. "She's launched hunters," Velra said. Small tracking drones, they never missed their target. Reed checked the console, even though the controls were mostly alien symbols he didn't understand. Still, the red dots on the radar were clear enough. 300 drones were closing in, faster than their little pod could fly. Can we outrun them? Reed asked. Velra shook her head. No, not in this pod. They'll catch us and either destroy the pod or drag it back to Zoreth. She won't let you go. Reed clenched his fists. He refused to be caught again. There has to be a way to fight back. Any weapons? Velra tapped on the console, searching. Only an emergency flare system, not real weapons, but maybe we can trick them. Reed's eyes narrowed. How? Velra explained quickly. If we eject the flares early, they'll generate heat signatures like ours. The drones might chase them instead, if we time it right. Reed nodded. It's a gamble, but better than waiting to be caught. Velra set the coordinates for the flares, aligning them with a nearby asteroid field she spotted on the scanner. If we hide inside the asteroid belt, the debris might block their sensors. Reed grinned. Let's give it a shot. Velra launched the flares, bright balls of burning energy shooting away from the pod in different directions. On the radar, the drones hesitated for a moment, then two of them changed course, chasing the decoys. But the third drone stayed locked on the real pod. One's still coming. Reed warned. Velra gritted her teeth. Then we make it to the asteroids. Hold on. She pushed the pod's thrusters to full power. The pod shook violently, barely holding together, as they dove toward a massive field of tumbling rocks and spinning debris. Behind them, the drone closed in, its weapons charging. A flash of red light fired, narrowly missing the pod but heating the walls. Faster, Velra, Reed urged. I'm trying. They weaved between giant rocks, the pod scraping and bumping against smaller debris. The drone followed, agile and deadly, dodging the stones like a predator locked on its prey. Reed spotted a large, hollow asteroid ahead. There! Fly through that one. Velra adjusted course, steering the pod straight into the giant spinning rock. The drone followed, but as it entered, Reed grabbed the manual override, spinning the pod sharply around a curve inside the asteroid's tunnel. The drone, too fast to adjust, slammed into the side of the rock with a loud explosion, its parts scattering into space. They burst out of the other side of the asteroid, panting, but alive. Reed laughed. That was close. Velra smiled, her eyes wide with excitement. You're reckless, but it worked. For a moment, they floated silently among the asteroids, safe for now. Reed looked at Velra, realizing she wasn't just another alien anymore. She was his ally. What will you do now? Reed asked her. You helped me escape. Zoreth will want your head too. Velra sighed. I can't go back, even if I wanted to, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Reed watched the stars. You could come with me. To Earth, or wherever I end up next. You said you wanted to understand humans. Now's your chance. Velra looked at him, uncertain but hopeful. I'd like that. Maybe I can learn what makes your species so untouchable inside. Reed chuckled. We're not untouchable. We just don't quit easily. Suddenly, the pod's console beeped again, but this time, it was a long-range signal. A faint message coming from a human ship, searching the nearby systems. Reed grinned. Looks like we've got a ride home. Velra smiled softly. Then, let's go, together. As Reed set the coordinates and guided the pod toward the signal, he knew this was only the beginning. Zoreth would come again. Others would learn of the human nectar and crave it. But now he wasn't just an ingredient. He was a warning. A reminder that humans weren't meant to be consumed. They were meant to fight, to survive, and to teach the galaxy why humanity was feared, even in the darkest corners of space. The small pod glided through space, moving toward the faint human signal. Reed sat quietly, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. Beside him, Velra studied the control panels, occasionally glancing at Reed, still curious about the human she had helped escape. Do you think your people will trust me? Velra asked softly. Reed smiled faintly. I don't know. But they'll listen to me. You helped me survive. That makes you more than an enemy. Velra looked out the window, watching the endless sea of stars. I never thought I'd help a human. On my world, they told us humans were just ... resources, beings to extract and profit from. Reed chuckled under his breath. We get that a lot, but we're full of surprises. After hours of drifting, the human ship finally appeared in the distance, a large, sturdy vessel designed for deep space exploration. Its lights blinked like a beacon of hope. Reed activated the pod's communicator. This is Reed Carter of Earth Science Guild. I'm requesting immediate rescue. I have valuable information and a guest. The human ship responded quickly, guiding their pod into the docking bay. As the pod doors opened, Reed stepped out, blinking under the bright human lights. A team of armed soldiers and scientists greeted him, their eyes wide with surprise. You're alive! One officer exclaimed. We thought you were lost. Almost, Reed replied, but I brought back a story you won't believe. Velra stepped out cautiously, her green skin and large eyes causing murmurs among the humans. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Reed raised his hand. She's with me, he said firmly. She saved my life, and she has information we need. The captain of the ship, a stern woman with sharp eyes, nodded slowly. Then you both better come with us and start explaining. Inside the ship's debriefing room, Reed told them everything: the alien market, the human nectar, Zorith's obsession, and the galaxy's hunger for what humans unknowingly possessed. The room stayed silent as he spoke. Velra added her part, explaining how the aliens believed the nectar was the key to power, but they never understood how to truly extract it. It's not something you can force, Reed said. It's part of who we are, our emotions, our soul, our choices. That's what they want, but they'll never get it the way they expect. The captain frowned. So ... we're walking treasures to them. Exactly, Reed nodded. But also a threat. Because they'll keep coming. Trying to harvest us, to capture us like animals. The captain stood, her expression grim. Then we can't stay unprepared. We'll need defenses, strategies. We'll need to show them that humans aren't prey. We're predators too when pushed. Reed agreed. We need to tell Earth. Build alliances. The galaxy has to know we're not to be farmed. We fight back. Velra spoke up, her voice careful. There is one more thing. The reason humans are truly dangerous. Everyone looked at her, curious. It's not just the nectar, Velra said. It's your ... spirit. It infects others. I've seen it. You make others believe. You make them rebel, resist, hope. That's what scares Zorith most, not the nectar, but that humans make others stronger too. Reed smiled. We call that humanity. It spreads faster than any weapon. The captain looked at Reed and Velra, then gave a decisive nod. Then, that's our real weapon, not just guns or ships, but who we are. What we stand for. We'll spread it, protect it, and make sure the galaxy knows if you come for humans, you won't just face one of us. You'll face all of us. The room filled with quiet determination. They knew war might come, but so would unity. Later, Reed stood by the observation window, staring at the stars. Velra joined him, her eyes thoughtful. You said your people aren't special, she said. But after all this, I think you're wrong, Reed chuckled. Maybe, but if we are, it's because we don't give up. That's all. Velra smiled. I want to learn more. About your people. About humanity. Reed looked at her and nodded. You will, and who knows? Maybe you'll spread a little of it yourself. As the Earthship sailed back toward home, the stars watched silently. Somewhere out there, Zorith was still alive, still hunting. But now she would think twice, because humanity had awakened. And the galaxy was about to find out humans were not food, not ingredients. Humans were a force. Unbreakable, unstoppable. And their greatest weapon was not strength or speed, but their unyielding spirit.